Hey, let's take it higher. God told me to tell you, child, don't worry, keep it moving. If they walk out and you lose them, you just know that heaven still has your...
She wears way too many hats for me to mention in one intro. But she's a pro at getting us to believe bigger. In fact, that's the name of one of her books. Please welcome Dr. Shante.
The first obstacle that comes to mind is overcoming the pain from my divorce. You know, interestingly, when relationships are kind of like these really dynamic entities, in that when things fall apart, everybody has their version of what happened, right? And so there's my version, there's his version, and then somewhere in between is what actually happened. And some divorces are really amicable, you know, like, hey, this was just what does Gwyneth Paltrow call it? A conscious uncoupling, you know, where we've decided to go our separate ways. And sometimes it's really acrimonious, like, no, this, and that sort of thing. And even though our divorce wasn't acrimonious, it was still very painful. It was very painful. And being able to navigate that pain, because sometimes we think that, like, okay, well, the ink is dry on the paper and I'm over it, we're done, I got a new lease on life, a new chapter and things like that. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to heal from things. Just because you've gotten through something doesn't mean that you've actually healed from it, and that it's a process. You know, a lot of the pain and the hurt that I had from the marriage, I had to kind of walk back and say, okay, well, what role did I play in this? You know, it's very easy to sit up there and point the finger and say, he did this and he did that and he didn't do this and he didn't do that. But what didn't I do? What are the things that I said? What are the things that I did, you know, that contributed to the demise of the relationship? And taking that responsibility was critical for me, because a lot of times we think that if we take responsibility for something, that we are absolving the other person of the role that they played in it. Well, I can't take responsibility because that lets you off the hook. But it doesn't work like that. You know, taking responsibility for it means that I take myself from a victim state to an active agent of change in my life. You know, so instead of being in this happened to me and this happened to me and oh, woe is me. No, it's like, no, this is what I did. This is what I accepted. This is what I allowed. This is what I didn't address. You know, I had agency in all of those things. And so because I didn't do the things that I should have, or did some things that I shouldn't have in that situation, now I become a learner of life in that situation instead of a victim of life in that situation. As far as faith goes, you know, when relationships fall apart, it's very easy. And this is definitely like my default personality. When I'm done with you, I'm done with you. Okay. Like, I have a saying. They said, man, you cold-blooded. My saying is scorched earth. You know what scorched earth is? Scorched earth is like you never existed in life. So every shred, every fiber of your existence, that if somebody knew me over a period of 10 years, they'd be like, dang, I forgot about so-and-so. You were with that person for so long. I forgot, because there's no trace of them. Well, in this case, I couldn't do that because we have a very obvious trace. We have a child together. And I had to reconcile the fact that my relationship with her dad is very different than her relationship with her dad. That she sees her dad in a way that, or I've seen her dad in a way that she will never see, because, you know, we try to show the best versions of ourselves to our children. So the things that I have issue with, the things that I'm challenged by with his personality or anything like that, she doesn't know anything about that. Healing was necessary because I didn't want to have to put her in a situation where she felt like she had to choose, or she was ever in an uncomfortable situation, or when she was with him, he was bad-mouthing me, or when she was with me, I was bad-mouthing him. Like, I didn't want to do that. I believe that people should have the right to kind of develop their own relationships. And so even though his and my relationship didn't work out, it doesn't mean that she shouldn't have the opportunity to develop a healthy relationship with her dad. And in order to do that, forgiveness was absolutely essential. But I also realized that forgiveness is a choice, but healing is a process, right? So even in the hurt of what's going on, I can make a choice to forgive you and say, I'm not going to hold on to this. But in terms of being able to heal from what happened, that's the part that takes some time. And it required much prayer and much therapy, because in our marriage, I had resigned myself. We say for better or for worse, till death do you part. So I had resigned myself that I wasn't going to file for divorce, that what was going on, I was just going to take it. I was going to deal with it. I was resigned to be miserable in that situation. And so in therapy, the question became, why were you willing to mortgage your happiness? Why did you think that it was okay for you to stay in this state of misery and not have some agency and live in a happier life? And I really had to wrestle with that. Like, why didn't I? Why didn't I think that I deserved to be happy, And so there was all of that. And then there was also the piece where, I asked God, because I had prayed for my marriage. I mean, like ashy knees, washed war room, cleaned out my closet, sticky notes on the wall. Like I was on my ashy knees praying for this marriage. And when it ended, naturally I was feeling some kind of way, like, okay, Lord, I see. But hindsight is 2020, right? Now that I've had some distance from that situation, we both needed to grow in ways that we could not grow as a couple. There was just so much acrimony in that relationship that the perspective that we needed, the personal responsibility that we each needed to take for the things that we had done to one another, being grown up enough to say, I'm sorry. Like, I am genuinely sorry for the hurt that I caused you in this relationship, and all of that. We couldn't do that together. We had to do that apart. And I remember when I got such peace about it, because, even though we like to put on these airs of sophistication, like we're so above such things, I was not above, the social media check-in, like, what he doing, who he with, who is she, that sort of thing, And when I got peace, through prayer and all of that, when I finally got peace, I had no desire to do any of that. It was just like, live long and prosper. Like, it was really kind of like the Vulcan creed. Like, I don't wish you any ill will. I don't wish you any harm. Do you, and be happy doing you, be at peace. And I'm going to do me, and I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to be at peace. And a lot of times I've seen, women kind of get stuck in the what happened of the relationship, but if you want to get unstuck, you really have to deal with yourself. A lot of couples, married couples, will say that our relationship or our marriage turned around when I started working on me, when I stopped sitting up here with my checkboard and my clipboard saying, here's what you need to change, here's what you need to do, I'm bringing you to the counselor because here's what you need to do, and tell him that he wrong. No. When people take personal responsibility and ownership for their actions, their thoughts, the things that they allow, the company that they keep and the activities that they do, that's when things start to change. And unfortunately, we were in a situation where we were waiting for the other person to get it together, to change. And until we separated, we were forced to be in a situation where we had to get it together in order to function and live and thrive. And so now we can have civil conversations. Now, we can laugh and joke, and it's not, or it's not, well, you can pick your daughter up at the curb because you ain't setting foot in this house. Like, it's none of that, and sometimes people see that as a form of weakness. After everything he did, or after everything she did, you would allow, but when God forgives, he doesn't forgive like in pieces or in slices. When God forgives, he separates your sin as far as the east is from the west, so he doesn't return to it. We're the ones who can't forgive. We're the ones who hold on to things. And I've come to realize forgiveness is not for the other person. That's what people don't realize. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. Okay, because forgiveness keeps you trapped in a prison of anger and guilt and shame and all of that. And so it was necessary to forgive not only him, but also to forgive myself and learn how to be kind to myself and say, you know what, you were human. You had some baggage that you hadn't sorted out, and there were some things that you needed to work on. That's why the healthiest relationships are between two whole and complete people. And sometimes we think wholeness is and completeness is, I got a good job with benefits, I'm driving such and such a car, I'm financially stable, I live in my own home. You could have all those things and be broken and tattered, okay? So I had to shift my definition of what it meant to be healed and to be whole and to be at peace with oneself and to find real joy, you know, which comes separate and apart from the things that you have or the things that look good on social media, and really about having peace and contentment and gratitude, you know, for your life such as it is, and starting to look at the things in your life that are going right instead of every little thing that's going wrong. Because if you stay in that place, you'll never heal and you'll always be broken. So that's my testimony. Words of wisdom I would offer are, number one, work on yourself. Sometimes we think that once a relationship ends, you know, we want to jump right into something new, hair done, nails done, everything did, and be like, I'm still cute, and we want to put ourselves back in the market. But the thing is, all of the things that caused brokenness in that previous relationship, you just trotting that stuff right on into the next relationship, because you can't get away from yourself. You're going to take you wherever you go. And so unless you have worked on you truly and truly come to terms with the role you played, it's not about assigning blame. Assigning blame is different from taking responsibility. So it's not about assigning blame, you know, saying this is at fault and that's at fault and I'm at fault. It's about taking responsibility, taking an active role in the choices that you made and the things that you do, so that once you have a clear sense of who you are, what your goals are, where you want to be, how you want to show up in relationships, and what the quality of those relationships should be, then you should entertain, you know, dating and going back out there and things like that. But to just jump from one broken situation into a new situation, thinking that this new situation is going to help you get over the old situation, don't do that. Don't do that. And also go into prayer. You know, one of the things looking back, so in hindsight, God did not say, this is your husband, this is the person that you should marry. I got pregnant. And so in my mind, I'm like, ooh, I go to church every Sunday. I can't be sitting up in here, no unwed mother. So come on. And I was so attached to the idea that I was not supposed to be an unwed mother. I was so attached to the idea that I wasn't supposed to be a statistic that I manipulated every way possible to get this man to marry me. Cold shoulder, silent treatment, ultimatums. I'm not going to date you forever and things like that. I played a big role in engineering the inevitable demise of the relationship. And so, you know, one of the big lessons that I learned is that, you know, attachment, you know, we get so attached to these identities and who we think we're supposed to be and what we think we're supposed to have and who we think we're supposed to be with. We will get so attached to that it becomes the source and the root of our suffering. You know, you have to say, you need to be attached to what God's will is for your life. If that's not who God wills for you, then you need to be able to surrender, which is hard for us to do because, you know, we grown, you know, but we need to be able to surrender, okay, ourselves to what God is asking us to do and who God is calling us to be with, and where God is ordering our steps, instead of being so attached to, you know, the Bible says, don't lean on your own understanding. We need to detach ourselves from the outcome and just trust God all the way.
It's mine. Own it, I got it. It's mine. Declare it, I got it. It's mine. Claim it, I got it. It's mine. Speak it, I got it. It's mine. J-Hope.